The Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra versus the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Let's go. By the way, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Now let's look at the price. So Samsung is coming in at 1299, whilst the iPhone is coming in at 1199. So obviously just based on the numbers would go with the iPhone. However, Samsung currently is offering free upgrades to the 512 gig option. So at the same price, you might say, I could understand why some people would say the Samsung would offer, let's say, better value in terms of more storage. It's around about the same price. However, in this case, we're just looking at the numbers and like the price long standing over time. So basically, I would say the iPhone. In some countries, of course, the Samsung does get some discounts. However, let's just look at the base numbers here and give a point to the iPhone. Let's look at the operating system. So the Samsung is Android 16, One UI 8.5. The iPhone is iOS 26. I honestly think it's a tie here, a point to both, because you could state a case for either of the tools, the iPhone or the Samsung. So fans on either side will obviously support their side. But in just my view, I would say it's a tie because they're both strengths and weaknesses on either side. Now let's look at AI. So Samsung has Galaxy AI 2.0 and Perplexity, Heyplex, whilst Apple has Apple Intelligence and also Siri, Hey Siri. Honestly, from what I heard about Galaxy AI 2.0 during the launch, I would definitely say Galaxy AI is far ahead because the Apple Intelligence is not as intuitive as Galaxy AI is said to be. Galaxy AI is doing more like the heavy work, whilst Apple Intelligence is just doing more like the basic stuff. So I'll definitely give a point to Samsung there. Now let's look at performance. So Samsung is using the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, whilst Apple is using the A19 Pro. So historically, I think Apple was just better at performance. Some people would say Samsung would be a bit slow in some occasions. However, with the Snapdragon 8, I think Samsung is way ahead, and this is coming as a major shock to many people, myself included. So I would definitely give Samsung here the point. However, I think it still would need like a test, a real life test to just see whether it's actually fast, like in your hand, whilst doing multiple operations. Now let's look at RAM or random access memory. So for the Samsung, we have 12 gig and 16 gig, whilst for the iPhone, we only have 12 gig. So just because there's an option for 16 gig there, obviously give the point to Samsung. Now let's look at display. So both are 6.9. However, just by the mere introduction of the privacy screen by Samsung, I think the point would definitely go to the Samsung there. Now let's look at the storage. So both are starting at 256, the Pro Max as well as the Ultra here on the Samsung side. However, for the Samsung side, we're only having 256, 512 at 1 TB, whilst here we have 256, 512, 1 TB, as well as the 2 terabyte option. So obviously, just by the fact that there's a 2 terabyte option on the iPhone, I guess we'll have to give a point to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now let's look at the main camera. So for the Samsung, we have 200 megapixels and also an aperture of f1.4, whilst for the iPhone, we have 48 megapixels and also an aperture of f1.8. So I think based on those specs only, would definitely have to go with the Samsung. Also, the f1.4 lens on the Samsung would mean it will allow more light because it's wider to come in. So maybe there might be better shots at night or in low light areas. Now let's look at the camera, but focusing on the video. So we have an 8K option on the Samsung, but at 30 frames per second. Then both have a 4K option at 120 frames per second. I think historically the iPhone has just been better in things to do with the camera, or many people would obviously choose it in some instances. However, the Samsung obviously takes some of those categories. But in terms of the video, just in terms of stabilization and also consistency, let's just give it to the iPhone here, because I think historically the iPhone has just been consistent in terms of its camera, in terms of video especially. Now let's look at charging. So the Samsung has 60 watts wired charging, whilst the iPhone has 40 watts wired charging. So also when they were speaking during the launch, they were saying that your phone can reach up to 75% in just 30 minutes. That's fast. And lastly, let's look at the battery life. So the Samsung has 5000 milliamps, whilst the iPhone has 5088 milliamps. I think historically the iPhone has just been better in terms of efficiency of the battery. So I would definitely have to give it to the iPhone in this case. Also, given that there are going to be many powerful things happening on the Samsung side, like Galaxy AI, and all those other stuffs, especially to do with AI, I would definitely say it might, in quotes, just be less efficient in terms of battery, but that's just something we have to wait and see in daily usage. But in this case, let's give battery life to the iPhone. So guys, we have a clear winner here. Obviously, the Samsung Galaxy S26. However, these can be subjective. So tell me your thoughts in the comment section. Which one do you think is better between the two? If you like this video, make sure you like and make sure you also subscribe.